July 10th, 2026, King Charles opened Highgrove, his private home in Gloucestershire, to Prince Harry, Meghan, and two grandchildren he had not seen in 4 years. One condition attached to every second of that afternoon: keep it private. Buckingham Palace confirmed the reunion in a single statement. No photographs, no details, no further comment. That was the deal. That was the only thing a 77-year-old man managing serious cancer treatment asked for. And then, a California dinner table happened. Martha Stewart exchanged a couple of words with Meghan Markle at that dinner. A couple of words. She was not seated next to her. She was not her guest. They barely interacted the entire evening. And she still walked away knowing that Meghan had just returned from the palace and was talking about it at the table. Martha did not need to eavesdrop. She did not need to lean in. The information traveled across the room and reached the one person at that table who already knows King Charles personally. The one person in that room who met him in New York, who was photographed beside him, who has been on the side of the working royals for years. Meghan did not gossip in front of just anyone. She talked at a dinner table where King Charles's own friend was sitting, and his friend noticed. That is the detail that should stop you. Not the dinner, not the anecdote, the specific person it reached. Martha Stewart went to People magazine, the same outlet that has protected Meghan for 8 years. The softest landing, the friendliest phone call she has ever had with the press. And she said it plainly. She had just gotten back from the palace. She was talking about it. No drama, no embellishment, no screaming headline. Just a casual sentence that dismantled the only condition Charles had attached to the most private afternoon of his year. Now, here is the part that made everything worse. Meghan's camp fired back. A source close to Meghan told the Daily Mail that Martha must have been confused. Confused. That one word. Applied to an 85-year-old woman who has spent 4 decades building a public career around authenticity, precision, and discipline. The woman who went to prison and came back stronger. The woman who does not need a headline, does not need the clicks, and has absolutely no reason to invent a detail about a dinner party she attended on the same night she was celebrating her own birthday on the cover of People magazine. Confused. That was Meghan's response to King Charles's personal friend. Think about what that response actually did. Martha's original comment was small. It was casual. It could have disappeared after one news cycle. The denial made it the story. The correction turned a dinner party anecdote into a royal credibility crisis. And now the question the entire commentary world is asking is not what Meghan said at dinner. The question is why she felt she needed to fight Martha Stewart over it. Because you do not call King Charles's personal friend confused and expect it to go quietly. If you have spent years watching this family offer private invitations, quiet afternoons, guarded reunions, carefully arranged moments, and watching each one find its way into a headline before the week was over, you were not imagining the pattern. Martha Stewart just confirmed it from across a California dinner table, with a couple of words exchanged, and the whole room was listening. Now you need to understand what Charles did before any of this happened. He arranged the July 10th meeting in near total secrecy, so quietly that William and Catherine were not even told it was happening. A king managing serious illness opened the home where he feels most himself, the gardens he has tended for decades, to the son who has spent 6 years dismantling the institution his father leads. He did it because he is a father. He did it because those are his grandchildren, and he had not seen their faces in 4 years. And he attached one condition to all of it. 1. Keep it private. Camilla was present for the entire afternoon. Robert Jobson, who has covered this family for 40 years, described her role in one word: witness. She was there to ensure an accurate account of what happened would exist, so that no version of that afternoon could later be reshaped into something it was not. A father meeting his own son in his own home apparently could not simply be present as a father. He needed a record, because he already knew what happens to a private conversation once it enters Meghan's orbit. He had been here before. Every private family exchange, every conversation behind closed doors somehow ended up in print, with a Sussex accent on it. The palace even coined a phrase for how that felt. Recollections may vary. So Charles prepared. He took precautions in his own garden with his own son. He brought a witness. He allowed no photographs. He released no statement beyond confirming the meeting had taken place. He did everything a man in his position could do to honor what his son asked for. A private reunion while protecting himself against what history had taught him to expect. And 4 weeks later, at California dinner table, Martha Stewart proved him right. Harry was reportedly present at that dinner. Sources place him there. He was watching, not intervening, not redirecting the conversation. Watching the subject of his father's private home come up in a room full of wealthy guests and Hollywood contacts. Watching it reach the ears of the one woman at that table who knows Charles personally, and now sitting with what that means for the fragile, guarded, carefully managed attempt at reconciliation that the July 10th meeting represented. Consider what Harry carried into Highgrove that afternoon. Not just the children. 6 years of public statements. A memoir that named his family by name and put their private moments in print. A court case he had just lost publicly and comprehensively. And a relationship with his father that had been reduced to one carefully arranged, witness-attended, no photography afternoon in a garden. That was what remained. That was what Charles had managed to offer him despite everything. One guarded afternoon. One condition. Harry believed it would be honored. He sat across from a father who had needed someone else in the room to protect the accuracy of what was said. He believed the one condition would hold. Diana understood what it cost when a private moment was converted into public currency. She lived inside that specific experience. She felt what it meant when the thing you said in a quiet room ended up being the thing the world discussed. She tried to prepare her boys for exactly this understanding. That private gifts are not guaranteed to stay private. That the person you share a quiet afternoon with and the way that afternoon travels afterward tells you something about what the relationship actually is. She documented it. She talked about it. She tried to build into her boys the instinct that would allow them to recognize this pattern before it cost them the things that cannot be replaced. The private gift that becomes public currency. The quiet afternoon that becomes a dinner table topic. The one condition that was supposed to protect something and did not hold. Diana named this pattern years before a California dinner table documented it. What Charles built for himself at Highgrove was meant to be protected by that one condition. What Camilla witnessed was meant to remain inside that garden. What Harry agreed to when he flew to Britain was a private afternoon that would not become a headline. 3 protections, all of them quietly dismantled by the time Martha Stewart finished her birthday interview with People magazine. You always knew this was the pattern. You watched it play out with the Oprah interview. You watched it play out with the memoir. You watched private phone calls, private letters, private family conversations find their way into documented public record. You pointed at it. You named it. You were told you were being unkind. You were told you were reading too much into the coincidences. You were told it was not a pattern. Martha Stewart confirmed the pattern from across a dinner table with a couple of words exchanged. In a room where Meghan apparently did not notice or did not care that King Charles's personal friend was within earshot. For many of you who have followed this family since Diana was alive, who watched Harry believe that the most recent private offering would be the one that finally held, this week closed something. Not loudly, without a statement from the palace, without a legal challenge. Without William saying a single word publicly. Just Martha Stewart on her 85th birthday, telling People magazine what she heard across a California dinner table. And Meghan's camp calling her confused. Martha gets to walk away looking casual. She said what she remembered. She did not need to verify it, defend it, or issue a correction. She simply recalled an evening and described it honestly. Meghan's side, meanwhile, has now called one of America's most recognized and respected public figures confused, wrong, and apparently unreliable about her own memory of a dinner she attended. That is not a fight you win. Not against someone with 4 decades of documented credibility. Not against someone who already knows the man whose private afternoon you were apparently discussing. The correction became the story. The clapback became the headline. And somewhere inside that calculation, Meghan's team apparently decided that the greater danger was letting Martha's account stand, rather than letting it fade. That decision tells you everything you need to know about what was actually said at that dinner. Because if it truly had only been the trip was nice, a polite, brief, meaningless response to a casual question, Martha's casual sentence would have faded within a news cycle. Nobody needed a correction. Nobody needed a source close to Meghan calling one of America's most credible figures confused. The response was not proportional to the original claim. It was proportional to something larger. Charles arranged that meeting in near total secrecy. He needed a witness. He took precautions in his own home. And Martha Stewart, who barely exchanged a couple of words with Meghan the entire evening, still walked away knowing enough to put it on the pages of People magazine. He knew what to expect. He prepared for it. And he was right. Subscribe and turn notifications on because this story has not finished moving. And leave me one honest answer below. If Diana could have sat with Harry before that Highgrove afternoon and shown him what Martha Stewart would confirm from across a California dinner table, what do you think she would have said to him? Not publicly, not in a statement. Just between a mother and the son she never stopped trying to prepare. Drop it below. Every single one matters here. This story belongs to all of us who have been watching.